G'day there once again viewers, your mate Kamikaze78 here, and today guys we're going to be sitting down and having a nice lengthy chat about the whole Star Wars Battlefront 2 loot crate fiasco, and how the said fiasco is leading towards what could be some absolutely monumental changes in the gaming industry. It's become quite clear over the past couple of weeks that gamers are getting really sick and tired of being milked for money, quite literally, to get, well, their value out of a game. And the whole thing has really pushed them above and beyond, which has now gotten the attention of not only the entire gaming community, but also certain government bodies. Now, in case you have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, firstly, might I recommend getting your head out of the sand, and secondly, let's quickly recap what you've been missing out on. The Star Wars Battlefront 2 beta hits. People enjoy the improved gameplay, but express concerns with EA's path to monetize the game for the long term, with the presence of loot boxes being tied directly to the main progression of the game in the multiplayer. EA responds by stating that loot boxes are most certainly earnable by just playing the game as you normally would. Star Wars Battlefront 2 hits the EA Early Access release, and thus the community quickly discovers that everything is in fact not okay. Things were in fact, well, on fire, and EA were the ones sitting there holding the match in front of the deodorant can, slowly setting alight their exclusive deal with Disney for the Star Wars license. Gamers were quick to realize that in-game progression was incredibly slow if you chose to play the game without spending any further money on it, with one gamer posting a spreadsheet to the Battlefront 2 subreddit revealing that it would take gamers over 40 hours of dedicated gameplay without spending a dime on loot crates to progress other classes and gear to unlock Darth Vader or Luke Skywalker, two of the most iconic characters in the Star Wars universe. Others spent upwards of $80 just to play the heroes, and made sure that their disgust with EA was heard by the community. EA responded by turning down the price of heroes, but gamers weren't satisfied. It was clear that EA had incorporated a microtransaction model that can often be found in free-to-play mobile titles to not only attempt to artificially increase the replayability of the game, but to also milk the Star Wars license using the addictive loot box microtransaction model. EA attempted to go into full damage control mode, replying to a particular Reddit thread, and proceeding to get downvoted into oblivion, making it the most downvoted comment in Reddit history. And with all that, gamers were given the opportunity to celebrate a small victory. In response to the overwhelming amount of feedback from the community, it would appear that Disney told EA to pull their heads in and fix the shitstorm that they had just created surrounding their beloved Star Wars license, especially in the lead up to the new movie, The Last Jedi. EA has since then temporarily turned off in-game microtransactions so that they can later reincorporate them after a rebalance pass, which essentially catches us up to where we are today, the gaming community celebrating a small win against big corporate bullshit. But it's not over, guys. This whole thing has just become something a lot bigger than just one game. We are now talking about something that is going to impact the entire industry. Among the ashes of the Star Wars Battlefront 2 launch, the Belgian Gambling and Gaming Authority took note of the drama and proceeded to begin investigating into loot boxes in video games with the intention of deciding whether or not they fit into the definition of gambling. And guess what, guys? Shit just got real, because the Belgian Gambling Authority came to the conclusion that loot crates are a form of gambling, and are seeking to get them banned across Europe. Now, since then, State Representative Chris Lee for Hawaii is now investigating the case against EA's quote-unquote predatory online gaming practices, and even the Victorian Commission for Gambling and Liquor Regulation here in Australia has deemed loot boxes as a form of gambling. So the question that remains is, what does this mean for the industry? Well, with the gambling commissions across the world deeming loot boxes as gambling, other commissions will be forced to make the same call until it becomes a worldwide consistent classification. Once that is achieved, I feel as though we're going to see the following things happen. Firstly, with loot crates being marked as gambling content, games that contain such loot crates will automatically have to be sold at a rating that corresponds with the legal gambling age in the country of purchase. For Australia, that age is 18. So, to paint the picture, Star Wars Battlefront 2, CSGO, hell, even games such as Plants vs Zombies and Overwatch will become R18 titles here in Australia. The most kid-friendly titles on the market will have to be sold with the respective adult-only rating to give parents the proper heads up as to what the game contains. However, it goes deeper than the rating itself, because in order for game devs to sell a game that contains gambling content, they may require a permit from certain government bodies to approve the sale of a title that contains the gambling content in that country. Now, because the games were being sold and distributed potentially to minors prior to the investigations being made, and with the recent decisioning in some cases that loot boxes are in fact gambling, game developers could face major fines and even bans in some countries for the distribution of unregulated illegal gambling platforms. So those will be the short-term impacts, but let's think about the long-term here as well. Game developers that currently incorporate loot boxes will be forced to come up with a new long-term monetization method to ensure that the funding of their game for the long term is consistent. That is, if they want to avoid the adult rating slapped on their game. And to those who think that they will just simply shrug off the attached rating and just roll with the loot boxes continuously, trust me guys, I work in games retail. I've seen the impact that an adult rating can have on a game. It hurts revenue. For games like Overwatch, where the design is a little bit more kid-friendly, it will destroy a large portion of the revenue stream for that game if kids aren't allowed to buy it. And as a result, we might even see the return of the dreaded Season Pass so that game developers can continue to supplement their income. Or we might see expansion packs return that used to exist so prominently with PC games. As you guys may remember with Battlefield 2, I believe 4 content-filled expansion packs came out with that game. That is just something that just doesn't happen anymore. Which to me is all very interesting, because games like Overwatch use cosmetic unlocks in loot crates to ensure that all new heroes, maps and game modes are free to the community to avoid segmenting the community. The Overwatch loot boxes are easily, in my opinion, the least predatory loot box designs in AAA gaming history. But when compared to the dictionary definition of gambling, that being wagering of money on an event with uncertain income with the intent of winning something back of value in return, the Overwatch loot boxes still fall into the exact same category regardless as the Star Wars Battlefront 2 loot boxes. And I know that many people will be unhappy with that verdict, and will rush to defend Overwatch like there's no tomorrow, saying that they're doing the right thing. However, something that I think that we need to remember as gamers is that this isn't exactly all about what the impact is of the loot boxes on the gameplay. I mean, sure, the impact that the Star Wars Battlefront 2 loot boxes had on the gameplay was the main reason for the uproar, but it's become much bigger than that. Right now, it's also about what impact the loot boxes will have on us as gamers when it comes to the mental health. That is what these government institutions are really interested in. Sure, the Overwatch loot boxes may seem innocent enough, they simply sell you cosmetics, but considering that they operate off of the same psychological ticks that slot machines do, they can be viewed as just as damaging as the Battlefront loot boxes to young, impressionable audiences. They still introduce and encourage gambling-like practices to minors, and that is dangerous. If we want to set the gaming industry back on track, we need to make sure that we are making excuses for no one. All loot boxes, regardless of content, need to be placed under a microscope if we want further action to be taken. We need consistent regulation. If we start making excuses for certain developers, then loopholes get created and things get even messier. The message needs to be crystal clear. We as gamers want a fair market that doesn't make use of exploitive gambling-like practices to make money for the long term. You know, to me guys, it's all very funny. Something like this emerged a while ago in the form of the CSGO gambling scandal that looked at CSGO skin gambling sites exploiting people of a young age to make a metric shit ton of money. And also how popular content creators were the creators of the site and making money off their site after promoting it on their own social media platforms. When that story broke, there was some serious outcry, and Valve made some serious changes to make the community content again. But that time around, government officials never really got involved because it simply wasn't big enough. However, this time around, it's a massive AAA worldwide publisher that has triggered the alarm bells, and the outcry of the gamers has put those alarm bells in the spotlight of the mass media and of government institutions. And while I'm just as sick as loot boxes as the next person, I'm actually kind of glad that EA done fucked up this bad and became so overzealous and, you know, had a loot box controversy overshadow what could have been a great Star Wars game. Because now, we might see some changes, some serious, real, proper changes for a better, fairer and gaming industry. So, EA, thanks for sticking to your guns. You've actually made me happier as a result, because right now, we might see results as a result of your bullshittery. And guys, with that basically concludes my thoughts on this whole, you know, gambling and loot box controversy that's taken the gaming industry by storm as of late. To me, guys, it's no longer just about the Star Wars Battlefront 2 progression and, you know, it being heavily tied and it becoming a pay-to-win model. To me, guys, it's more about that now. To me, the spotlight is on the loot boxes and the effect they have, not on the gameplay of a game, but on the effect they have on us as human beings and our mental health. Clearly, guys, something needs to change, and I'm hoping that with these ongoing investigations by official government bodies, we might see some actual changes in the gaming industry. Now is the time to make your voices heard, guys. Make sure that these government bodies, whilst they have their microscopes on this issue, make sure that they know about it. Make sure that we as gamers are making our voice heard. I know we're very, very distracted right now with the whole net neutrality thing, but we also need to keep our voices going with this as well. Guys, gamers can win these big, big battles. You know, we're currently battling net neutrality, as I said before. We can win that. We can win this as well. We can make the industry more honest, and we can ensure that things, when we're paying money for content, we are getting our money's worth. So guys, once again, that wraps up my video today. If you guys enjoyed it, a backhanding of that like button would be greatly appreciated. And if you find yourself backhanding that like button, and say you're new to the channel, why don't you go and backhand that subscribe button whilst you're at it to keep up to date with the content in which I'm releasing here on my channel. Once again, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. Peace out, and I'll be seeing you all next time. Have a good one.